for you guys is I'd be remiss if I didn't rewind a little bit and go with the 3 Pac-12 athletes of the week that we had from the Oregon Twilight Meet. And of course, the Oregon Twilight Meet was an opportunity for us to fill out the rest of our roster to get 28 people. So some people there getting some last-minute homework, some last-minute cleanups there in that meet. Great opportunity for us to recognize our seniors there in that process, which saddened me a little bit because we missed one. We missed one of our seniors there and didn't give him his flowers while he was living, and that being Cooper Tier. And we're going to have to find a way to make up for that guy because that guy was all world for us here at Oregon while he was here. And so we'll find a way to recognize him in his senior moment somewhere in one of our events here shortly. And then that weekend was a great weekend for Oregon track and field because we got a chance to look back. And it was special for me because these are the kids that I recruited when I first came to Oregon back in 05, 06, whatever year that was. And that Hall of Fame class there, we were doing a little bit of makeup there as well for COVID. So there was a 2 or 3 years that they were bringing some people back to be recognized and inducted into the Hall of Fame. And so to have those kids come back and be recognized there in the Hall of Fame was outstanding and a real feather in our cap here as a program to see all those people that we've seen grow up over the years. And now moving forward, we have a great weekend ahead of us. One of the premier track meets in the country this time of year. The Pac-12 Championship speaks for itself and how it's been able to elevate track and field as a sport. And so happy to be in the Pac-12, happy to continue to do what we're doing here at Oregon. And so we have a great challenge ahead of us this week. You guys do the dope sheets just like we do. And it'll be a tough matchup between a few teams there on both the men's and the women's side. And so looking forward to get that started, looking forward to move in that direction. The kids are excited and their state of readiness is where it should be. And this time of year, as I always say to you guys, is not about running fast, not about jumping far, not about throwing far, but it's about putting that big O in front of all the other emblems on this placard here in front of us. And so that competitive atmosphere often brings out those fast times and those far throws and those good distances there in all the events. And so we're going to attack this thing like we always do from a balanced approach. That's kind of how we recruit. That's kind of how we do things from a team standpoint. So you're going to see us score points in all of our events. Which is kind of how we set up our program to be balanced across all events. So having said that, questions?
Robert, it looks like just looking at descending order lists throughout the different events that USC maybe has come back to earth a little bit in the sprints and the hurdles. Do you think that they're more vulnerable on the women's side than they have been in the last 3 years?
I think that they're talented like always. They're there in Southern California, so they get the creme de la creme of athletes. And I think they're going to be formidable just like they always have. I haven't seen any of the start list or any of the heat sheets for where they're placed their people at, but they have tons of talent down there, and that's what makes them such a formidable and a good opponent.
What about on the men's side? You guys have a 14-year streak going. What's your confidence level going into the meet that'll reach 15?
Good question. The good thing about these dope charts and these form charts and these rankings is they don't mean a hill of beans when the gun goes off. And so for us to be able to go out there and compete, because we still have to compete, they have to run the track meet. And then I tell our kids that not to worry about the score. If there's somebody sitting up in one of these boxes or one of these things here that are going to be calculating and tabulating the score, you just make sure that you put green and yellow in front of those other colors. And so that's going to be our mantra moving forward. That's going to be our mantra this weekend as always. And so we'll see where let the chips fall where they may.
I'm not going to suggest that you haven't had top-level talent these last 14 years, but has part of the strength been in your depth coming into these meets?
Yeah, these conference championships are always tricky. Like, we're going to have our champions, and we're going to have our people that get those first, second, and third points, which is the kind of the lion's share of the scoring system. But these championships are made up of those people that finish 6th, 7th, and 8th. those are usually what determines the winner. And so those people that finish 6, 7, and 8 are going to help propel us over the top if that's what the cards hold for us.
What kind of role are you taking in preparation for this meet? Are you kind of overseeing all the different events, or are there a few that you're hyper-focusing on?
I kind of oversee a little bit of all of those things, but I'll be focused on the kids that I coach to make sure that I'm helping them be in the best position possible, but also just from a programmatic standpoint, making sure that the kids have everything they need from me as well as their coaches.
Who are some of those kids that you've taken, I guess, more of a focus on this year?
Well, I coach the jumps here, and I coach the long sprints. So I see those kids every day, and I work with them every day, and I coach those kids every day. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say those. But for me, being the head coach, you got to have your hands in a little bit of all those pots. So a little bit there in the distance side, on the men's and women's side, a little bit on the throw side, men's and women's, and a little bit on the sprint side, men's and women's, as well as the multis, men's and women's there. So my hands and some of the strategies and some of the ideas of what they can do and what they need to do for this weekend has all been part of that, putting my hands in those different pots.
Hey, what are your thoughts on the 3-day format, as opposed to splitting it up in years past, and also maybe now having an extra day between prelims and finals for some events?
Yeah, it's a little different. It's something that we went through as a conference last year because of COVID, to condense this meet. And we're supposed to have a 2 or 3 year trial of this 3-day period, and then we're going to sit as a conference after that and decide on if we want to go back to what our tradition is, which is the multis meet the week before the actual Pac-12 meet, which, if you're asking me my opinion, I favor that over our current model.
Why do you favor that, Robert?
Because it's just good for us. It gives our multis a chance to come back. It gives a multis event that probably isn't highlighted as well as it should be an opportunity to have the spotlight and give those kids their attention and their just due. And I think it gives kids more of a break throughout the meet. So I think it's just a better format for the athletes.
Do you have to change anything strategically between the different formats?
Yeah, you do. Max Vollmer and those guys would be somebody that would come back this weekend and do some different events that would help. As well as, if you look at the guy from Cal, he would have came back and did the long jump, and I think he's running the hurdles as well, and he opted out of the multis because he already has a multi score. So little things like that just makes more sense from a competitive standpoint.
Talking about your involvement in sprints this year, what are some improvements you've seen from Kai Williams?
I don't coach Makai Williams personally. He's a short sprinter, and remember, I coach the long sprints. However, his improvement is just a testament to what he did indoors. Being able to compete indoors, and you got to run 60 meters on your way to 100 meters. So anytime you see kids that are having improvement in the 60-meter dash indoors, you can it bodes well for them moving into the outdoors and putting together the last part of that race model in the last 40 meters.
How do you keep everybody in a normal year? Is there almost too much excitement this year, or how do you keep everyone excited? What way is it going, or how are you feeling?
Well, I've heard a lot of people talk about this is the most historic season and most historic year for track and field in the state of Oregon and here at the University of Oregon. And I would echo those sentiments. Like, if you look at the meet schedule and what we're doing, it's off the charts. And, it's hard for us as humans not to want to look over the fence or peek through the curtains and see what's down the road, but we try to make sure that we just keep our feet on the ground and take it one day at a time and one meet at a time. And the most important meet for us this weekend is the Pac-12 Championships.
You're going to have a big scoreboard, the big video on this week?
Yes, ma'am.
What's that like for the athletes? It seems like they're almost life-size watching themselves.
Good question. We practiced a little bit with it on, and of course, as the people were programming it and put it together, it was on. So the kids here have seen it a good bit just in the testing and the warm-up. So it'll be interesting to see the feedback. It'll be interesting to see when you actually put live video up there how that affects one another. Oftentimes kids get caught up into watching the board instead of watching what's around them, but I'm more interested in seeing the javelin throwers who actually are facing directly into that, how that's going to look when they release those jabs, because we got a few guys that are really talented in that event as well.
And is that why you're practicing with it, to get them used to?
I think it's more so for the mechanics and make sure that the people that are running the run-up show here are on their P's and Q's. Of course, we dubbed it the entertainment board and so we want to make sure that not only is it entertainment for the fans, but entertainment for the athletes as well.
Yeah, the last time that EJ jumped was at the Oregon Relays, and you had him in the long jump, and now he's doing triple jump. So what was the reasoning behind that?
Just trying to find a way to score some more points. You know, EJ is a talented triple jumper, and he was leading the world at one point in time from his competition in Mount Sac. And so to have him practice, get his feet wet in the long jump at the Oregon Relays was exactly that. You know, he came from a short approach, and we're kind of exploring different events. Like you're going to see whenever these start lists come out, you're going to see some events for our kids that aren't traditional, that they haven't done all year, and hopes to pick up those 6th, 7th, and 8th place points that I mentioned earlier. So EJ in the long jump at the relays was exactly that. I'm assuming there's going to be some people like Elisa Hickey that are going to do some things. There's probably going to be some people like Dominic Urtolo, maybe Tori Sloan, maybe Pierce Lacoste. All those guys will be guys that will probably be tinkering with some things to try to scrape them some points. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say all of our guys that are going to possibly jump in the 5K after they run their race.
One more person. Jada Mays wasn't entered in the 200, even though she's kind of tied. She is tied for the Pac-12 lead. What was behind that decision?
Just making sure that we put her in the best positions healthy. You're asking me a question of health, which I don't necessarily talk about because there's other smart people than me that dabble in those. And so we just want to make sure we protect her because she has a huge future for us moving forward.